Welcome to the Brownsville Minute, a community-conscious conversation and a platform that provides information, wellness, love, and unity all on a digital platform. And our goal is to try to make sure that our community residents are informed, conscious, and that we are connecting the dots on a virtual platform. The Brownsville Minute is designed for everyone. Please join us with the Brownsville Minute. Well, hello there, good people. It is so amazing to have you join us for another episode of the Brownsville Minute. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are safe. I hope that you are sane. And I hope that you and your loved ones are doing overall well. Welcome to the Brownsville Minute. My name is Anita Pierce, and I am your host and also the producer of the Brownsville Minute. The Brownsville Minute is a platform where we have conscious conversations that impact residents of East Brooklyn. We have a specific and targeted focus on the residents of Ocean Hill, Brownsville, where we provide information that with topics with you in mind: health, finances, small businesses, civic engagement, and everything else in between. And our community has made a decision that we wanted to be sure to provide information and things that are most important to you. And so here today, we are going to be talking specifically with one of Brownsville's own. I love when I have an opportunity to interview some of my fellow Brownsvillians because it makes the conversation a lot more authentic, fun, and we could reminisce about some of the things that we all may or may not have experienced, because even though we're all from Brownsville, we share a common place, but our experiences may have been different. And so I am excited to really unpack today about what it looks like to be a small business owner or a business owner, and you come from Brownsville, and how you are able to connect your work that you do now with community impact. So I get a lot of goosebumps because my guests who we're going to be interviewing today, we have worked together, specifically most recently on a youth conference that was hosted by Community Board 16. We've worked on a few other projects related to working with and supporting our youth. So I actually want to not just have me in this frame. I actually want to bring on my guest, Mr. Duane Kinnon of the Kinnon Group. So, hello, Duane.
Good morning, Anita. How are you?
I'm doing really good, thank you. How are you?
I am great. No complaints. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to finally have you on the Brownsville Minute, because I feel like I be stalking people, but I know schedules, and when it finally happens, it's the timing is always amazing. So
That's right. Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about who you are, what the Keenan Group does, and just a short story about you.
Yeah. So I'm Duane Kinnon, and like you said, born and raised in Brownsville, Brooklyn, out of Van Dyke Projects. Went to all of the local schools, PS 184, Junior High School 275, and Thomas Jefferson. So I could walk to school every morning from elementary school all the way through high school. And I also, as a professional, I'm the president and CEO of the National Sports Zone Foundation and also the chair of the Friends of Brownsville Parks. And my quick story is I came back to the community, I want to say about 6 years ago, to put a plan in place. It was called the Brownsville Legacy Project, and I wanted to focus on four things. One was to get Betsy Head Park renovated. Two was to bring more youth programming into the community. Three was to infuse the community with technology. And four, if you have a beautiful park and you don't have funding for programming, then what are you doing? So the fourth thing was putting together a nice sports program coordinated for the community. And in a relatively short period of time, we've got Betsy Head Park renovated to $30 million.
Mhm.
We've put $7.8 million worth of technology labs in 32 schools between Brownsville and East New York. We brought in a Boys and Girls Club at Frederick Douglass High School. And then the last thing was starting the actual Sports Zone Foundation and running great community sports programs for about 4 to 5 years.
That's a mouthful.
It is. It is.
But all really good things that have happened. So first I want to start with um the business side, right? So you
Yep.
are a business consultant. What does that look like for you? Then I want to land on the community, the parks and all, because if anyone has not visited the new revised track park at Betsy Head, you are missing out. Missing out. It's,
Right.
it's always packed. So let's start about with your work, like your
Yeah.
consulting work.
Yeah. So how it started, I was a former nonprofit executive. So I worked for um, two global nonprofit organizations specifically for youth. One was the Salvation Army, and then the last one was the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. I was president in Syracuse, New York, providing services for the entire city. And then what I decided to do was, hey, let me take a minute to work for myself and kind of go back home. That was always the plan since I was a kid to return back home with everything that I've learned and really start to implement programming there where the need, was so high. So I left the Boys and Girls Clubs and started my own consulting firm and put that plan together that I just mentioned, tailored for the community, and then came home and went to work. And really, what that meant was just creating a network of different companies and organizations that could provide funding to be uh, used for operations, to pay for some staff, to kind of get the initial strategic planning going and come up with a model that I knew that would work. And then as the consultant, I was the person that could show up to all of the meetings in the middle of the day, because we know, like a lot of people, they work a 9 to 5 job and they may have families. So a lot of my colleagues couldn't make those 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, meetings. So as a consultant, I would represent maybe 5 or 6 people at one time in a meeting just so that everybody's fully represented. And it really allowed us to have some great success together.
And that's great. That's great. So for those who are thinking about transitioning into consulting, this is another pathway that you
Yeah.
can go through. Um, it being an entrepreneur does allow for a lot of flexibility. It is not easy. I say that all the time. It's not easy, but it's
Right.
fun. It's fun.
Right. And I can tell, for any viewers who's interested in this, the thing that made it pretty easy for me and pretty fun for me is that I've always been a huge multitasker. being able to kind of handle a lot of things at the same time. So if I need, to work on my computer, I can do that. If I need to write a grant, I can do that. If I need to make a presentation, if I need to kind of manage financials, these are all things that I've done kind of historically. And that's made it easy for me to be an entrepreneur.
Agreed. Agreed. And so I want to pivot just a little bit. So you have, this very strong background. And I wanted to just plug, are you an alum of Syracuse?
Yes, I am a graduate of Syracuse University. Um, yeah, so and that's a very, very kind of special kind of part of what my life is. In addition to being a graduate of this wonderful university, I was also an athlete, which is great. So when we all kind of went to school in the late 80s, early 90s, it's amazing the huge network of people that I went to school with. If you turn on the TV, you will see their names, prominently displayed on leading major companies. The athletes that I played with, they have all, gone on and done special things. They're Hall of Famers, which I think is great. The music industry, ESPN. Syracuse is a big communication school. So our Orange Nation is just
Mhm.
amazing. And it's interesting. The cute story is that it always ties back to Brownsville. One of the
Mhm.
reasons why I went to Syracuse was
Wow.
because of Pearl Washington, who grew up in several houses 2 blocks away from me. So when I got on campus and I was being recruited, I saw some people that I knew from the neighborhood, which is great.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, you have Pearl, who was the number one basketball player in the country. So I felt like it was home, and that's how I got to Syracuse.
That's so amazing. I am not from Orange Nation, so but I do have a couple of cousins who went to Syracuse, and I'm always excited to know that
Yeah,
there is a huge, huge, after you graduate, the connections remain strong, and you can see it. So shout out to Syracuse. I'm wearing orange, but not.
yeah, no, I appreciate. And ironically, next weekend is an event called Coming Back Together. It's when African American and Latino alums come back to the university, and there's workshops and basketball games and all kinds of fun activities for folks to participate in. It happens every 3 years. So the last time we did it, I volunteered as one of the coordinators, and we organized um, a basketball game with players from the basketball team, football team, soccer, lacrosse, and we raised $1 million in one weekend for the
Wow.
university. And that money goes to support African American and Latino uh, students who are currently attending the university.
Nice. That's really exciting to hear. So shout out again to Syracuse. I wanted to just pivot just a little bit
Yeah,
about, so now that you are in business, and it seems like you're connecting, some of the things that you've your personal experience with sports, with business, to the work with the renovation of the Betsy Head Park.
correct.
So would you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, so the the great story about Betsy Head Park was anyone in this community who grew up in this community has touched Betsy Head Park at some point. As a kid, my family would go to the pool, right? And as a young kid, it was nice to go to that park and have fun. At the time, I didn't participate in any athletics. There were more programs at the time, but I think I was too young. By the time I became a teenager, the city um, stopped investing regularly in the maintenance of the park. So that the park,
Mhm.
when you look at the old pictures, it is a shame to see how you have a rubber track that had exposed cement. The grass is never cut. Um, and for me, when I came back to the community, I really thought about what would be a project that can get the community excited and everybody be on the same page about, right? Because we know in Brownsville, we all have our, it's so much need. We're worried about housing, we're worried about technology, we're about education, but everybody loves Betsy Head Park.
Right.
So we put a plan together that included a lot of people. And my role at the time was, I went and met with the Parks Department, the Brooklyn commissioner at the time, and came with a presentation to show him, what we were able to generate in the community. And then in return, I asked him, what do you need to see from Brownsville? And his
Mm,
response at the time was, we know the project's going to cost about 3 million, I'm sorry, about $12 million. That was his quote at the time. He
mm,
said, if you can find 3 million, I can handle the rest. And then what I need is for the community to be organized. And I need for uh, residents in the community to show up for what's called scoping sessions. And that's those planning meetings where the Parks Department comes in, they make a presentation, they show you the different amenities like park benches and bushes and flowers and tracks and fields, so that the community can decide on what, if we had the money, what could they receive in their park. So then at the time, the word was we needed to start a strong Friends of group, which we did. It was a Friends of Betsy Head Park at the time.
mm. Okay.
And then we were able to recruit about 25 different organizations. The group was really strong. For every scoping meeting, we set an attendance record in Brownsville, and every meeting was packed. We had the right groups at the table, whether we needed to have parents or seniors or youth. Um, and then we actually won a couple of awards for the management of that Friends of group. And luckily, as we were writing grants and raising money and coming up with schematics for what the park would look like, the Brooklyn commissioner at the time fought for us and made us an anchor park, which was it was Brooklyn's designation for the anchor parks throughout the city, which is
Mhm.
a $150 million initiative, one park selected in each borough, and our Betsy Head Park was selected because of the work that we did. Um, and then at the same time, what was great was everything that the community asked for in terms of upgrades, the Parks Department responded perfectly. Never happened before. The announcement was made. We got the $30 million. The work was done. It was supposed to be completed, I believe, in February of this past February. But what happened was the city finished the park 4 months
Oh,
early in
yep.
December, which never, ever, ever happens. So when it comes to that park, that's just a great example of how everyone came together from a lot of different angles and pushed the issue, gave the Parks Department exactly what they needed to see, and then they responded.
I recall bringing my little person to those meetings. They had them inside of I guess it's like the pool area. I went to a number of those meetings,
Yeah,
and I have to tell you, sitting in on those stakeholder um, response uh, meetings,
yeah,
and to actually see, some of the needs, it connected because it's so funny. So my place of residence is right across from the park, the pool, so I always had what I
yep,
call the oceanfront view
yes,
of Brownsville. I mean, we would sit in the apartment and see like everything, and I
yeah,
wasn't really allowed all the time without my brothers or my cousins
right,
to go in the park because you get
yep,
dunked and it was just a whole different scene that it is now.
yes,
Um, but when I became a mom,
mm-hmm.
they had classes that I would take my daughter to, so we would really use the pool
Right,
early in the day before it got really busy. So I always took advantage of it,
yeah,
and then to have those meetings there
Yeah.
was really significant. One, because I think about, we used to cross the park. So we used to cross the park from the train station to cut through the through the gate because there wasn't an entry point and no one wanted to walk around. So that's how old I am. And then
So I have a story for you. So you may have been this lady, and I have a great story. So you remember I told you I'm also a graduate of Thomas Jefferson High School. Betsy
uh
Head Park was our home field, right,
right.
for baseball. Once I finished playing there, when I came back, I would say in my mid 20s, I was the head baseball coach at Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
So we would play games in Betsy Head Park, and people would get off the train at Saratoga and walk across the
Yep.
field
Yep.
while we're playing a game.
Yep.
And folks would yell
Get
at
off the field.
you better not hit me with that ball. So, so yes, so I completely understand. And now we have 6 different
Yep.
entrances and exits. So it allows people to enter and exit the park in a nice, respectful way.
But how about the fact that we can actually see through the entire park? Because remember the wall that
Yes,
it was like it was actually concrete seating.
it
But
was.
just the fact that you can see through, what is
Yeah.
that, Strauss and Dumont,
Yes.
that that whole was completely covered. And so when you're thinking about safety, right?
Yes. Yes.
It for me, it's you can see both from Livonia to Dumont and off, outside of the pool side
Right.
on Thomas Boyd. I was about to say Hopkinson Avenue. That's
Yep.
how old I am. Um,
Correct. Right.
on Thomas Boylan, you can see, those corners. So it is absolutely
Yeah.
um beautiful is like an understatement and a
Yeah.
needed, necessary. I know I passed through, I want to say it was Monday night. It was full.
Yes.
No, yesterday. No, it was actually yesterday.
Yes.
Because I was doing community work in East New York,
Yeah.
and I was passing by, and the park was full. Football,
Right.
ones were they were working out because there's a section in the park where you can actually work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is beautiful. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you the safety piece was intentional.
mhm,
I remember specifically telling the parks department that those walls had to go
mhm,
because one, like you said, it obstructed the view in the park, which was pretty bad.
mhm.
But then we know like a lot of negative things happen behind those walls that people
Yep,
just couldn't see. Unfortunately, these are horrible things that I witnessed, and also our kids witnessed in that park. So we got rid of those walls to make sure that the space was open. And the real focus, as you know, always is safety first in
right.
Brownsville because we do have so many issues around violence. So that was really important to us.
But not only that, to your point that you mentioned earlier, it's about creating a space that provides community connections.
Yeah,
And so oftentimes, parks represent, once you get a permit, you can have family gatherings there.
yeah,
You can have, community programming.
yes,
You can promote healthy options, right, to work
right.
out that are of no cost to you. You just have to get up and go, you
That's
know.
right. That's right.
So when you think about those components, that's what I think about, which leads me into the healthy and safety connection that, the work that you're doing. So I want to go full circle about all of your work. So you have, again, your consulting, you have the work that you're doing with the parks,
Yeah.
and then connecting it with programming in sports. You want to elaborate more on that?
Yeah. So what we did, which was nice. Betsy Head Park was a capital project. We know that that was going to take time, but with the sports piece, we're able to start that early. So what we created, what was is called a Brownsville Community Sports Zone,
Mhm.
and that the zone is more about connecting the dots, like you said. So we work with uh, the Parks Department, linking that to the Department of Health, to our local schools, to our churches, so that we can provide wraparound services for kids who are participating in our sports activities. So I kind of take pride in using sports as a, we call it sports based youth development, right?
Mm.
So it's not about going out and winning and competing, but it's about bringing kids and families together in a system that's fun, healthy, and entertaining. So what we've been able to do is we currently serve over 5,000 kids in Brownsville through a wide array of programming from uh, mainly basketball was where we had to start, because we're a basketball area. Football has grown, which is great. And then personally, I was a football, baseball player. So I had to secure a grant to bring a baseball initiative to the community that we're going to launch in the next few months. Um, so, in working with a lot of the existing youth organizations, we partner with them to activate the indoor spaces in the gym that surround Betsy Head Park, the outdoor spaces. And like I said, we've been doing it for about 5 years. When COVID hit, we had just started our indoor boys. Well, actually, everything we do is co ed. So, it's our co ed youth basketball initiative with Medgar Evers College and their beacon. And then COVID hit, of course, so we could not have the kids participate, especially indoors. But since we work with parks and we had already been activating it, we did some really great virtual and social distancing projects with sports and training for kids all through the pandemic. And our last event is actually this weekend in Betsy Head Park. We're doing what's called the Brownsville Youth Games. So we're going to be focusing on girls this weekend, this Saturday. So we're going to be doing some basketball, some double dutch, some dance, and track and field. And it's also an opportunity for parents and kids to come and get school supplies for the upcoming year.
Nice. That's really amazing. I also want to mention, so I always say I lived in a really good space. So I lived in between two parks. Obviously, the full Betsy Head Park with the pool,
Yep.
but I think I always called the park that's on Thomas Boylan and Dumont on in Bristol.
Yes.
I also call that Betsy Head Park, but it's no longer. It's called Imagination Park now.
Yeah. So it's the Imagination Playground, but then it's also Betsy Head Park Memorial Playground. So
Right,
here's one of the issues. So you're right. Growing up, we called that park Bristol Park. That's what
right.
everybody knows it. So when I came back to the community and hear all of these new names, I was, wait a minute, when did they get changed?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
So when we would have meetings and we would talk about that park, we would make the announcement and say, okay, we're going to be at Betsy Head Memorial Playground, and they're like,
What's
where's
that?
that? They would say, okay, Bristol Park. Okay, we got it. We'll be there. Yeah. So what's nice about that particular Imagination Playground is the first half of that park was a $5 million
Yeah.
initiative with the Parks Department, which happened before the Anchor Park initiative happened.
Right.
And that was one of those things where the city, and it was kind of weird to me, they would say, okay, we're going to have scoping meetings, we'll have community engagement, and then you will get, your upgrades in your park. One day, that park was just new, no meetings, no scoping. It was a gift, and it was closed, open, renovated, and no one knew anything until announcements were made afterwards. So um, I like that the money was put in the park, but I didn't like that there was no community engagement, because one of the things that was missed at the time was that here's this beautiful playground for families and kids, but no bathroom.
Right. No restaurants. So that was stressful. And I
Yeah,
live close.
right. So you know that. So that does not happen downtown Brooklyn.
No. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
But I did notice that now it has a skate park,
it does.
which I feel kind of like I'm like, "Where was this stuff when we were little?" You know, like, you know how much trouble we could have stayed out of if
Yes.
we had, like, so
Yeah.
the truth is there were things that were there,
Yep.
but though the redesign of those 2 parks would have been super encouraging
Right.
to, I say, myself, to my cousins, because the parks are absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah.
Um, they are.
Yeah. So the skate park is an interesting story. We had a skateboarding organization who was really trying to do some serious work in Brownsville, and they were partnering with a few folks. So I had them show up at community board 16 parks and recreation meetings and demand, let it be known that they need a skate park. So at the same time as I was leading the Friends of Brownsville Parks group, I was able to push for that. And we were able to get, once again, a response from the Parks Department with a beautiful skate park. And it's one of the best skate parks in the city. I was just out there a few days ago and it is amazing. So, anyone who is into skateboarding, please go and take a look. It's awesome. Now, we closed the gap full circle. We're able to reach back out to that same group, which is part of a foundation. It's the Harold Hunter Foundation. And we were able to launch a summer program this past summer in
Nice.
that park with the new skate. So we brought in a foundation, we have the kids, and then we also have this wonderful space. So we planted a great seed in the playground.
Wow. Um, I'm not sure I wanna take up skateboarding, but I will try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, think
Yeah,
we'll
just
we'll
go and take a look. Don't skateboard, but just go and take a look.
no, see, the thing with me, I would actually want to, like, I've seen it, but now I want to skateboard, but it's just, the
Yeah,
needs are a little bit different,
that's right.
as
But
as we mature.
if you do, we have trained professionals in the park that can give you a lesson if you like.
Oh, that, you know what? Um, well, that's helpful 'cause, the way I'm set up, I'll try stuff, but I wanna make sure that I can walk away from it too, so
That's right. That's right.
so,
Mhm.
as we are wrapping up our discussion, it sounds like you've been really embedded, with the give back to Brownsville, and not just Brownsville.
Yes.
I know that you do some other work in other
Yes.
parts of East Brooklyn, but specifically to where we are from. And so, in closing, I wanted to have you share with us, pretty much your overall philosophy about, the importance of connecting business to your community and also appropriately collaborating.
Yeah. So what I'll end with is my personal story is that I've always known that I was going to wind up doing this work
Mhm.
when I was a kid. It was
Wow.
a goal of mine. It was to be an executive with the Salvation Army, to eventually come back to the community. With the knowledge, the education, but also the experience of doing this work in other places. So when you came home, now, we have the relationships. Um, because of social media, I was able to stay connected to so many people. It was a great platform, over the years, and they were seeing some things that I was doing in other places. And they're like, Duane, we need it in Brownsville. And I said, hey, listen, don't worry, I'm coming. So we finally came and we're making great things happen. And it's very important that if you really want to have an impact, you really have to network and work with others. And when I say work with others, you work with others who are like-minded, who are reliable, who have integrity. And then that becomes kind of like your family of business leaders and stakeholders that you can depend on. And then that's going to guarantee your success over time. We got a lot of wonderful people, other folks who are just like me. They've may have gone on to college or done great things in other places, and they're all here in Brownsville. And my last word is I was really proud when I go to other community meetings, like in Flatbush and Crown Heights and Canarsie, And when I show up, they say, "Oh my God, you guys are so organized in Brownsville." And that's what we wanted. We never were able to say that in the past. So for us to be able to say that now is really impressive. And other folks are watching us and the success and the growth. And we just want to continue that in Brownsville and beyond.
So hashtag when you from Brownsville, that means you coming from dopeness, period. Hashtag Brownsville blood babies are dope.
That's right. 100% true. You come from Brownsville. We know all the challenges. I don't even focus on the negative because we just have too many positives going on and we've got to stomp the negative out. So, but we know that that takes a long time.
Mhm.
So these projects I shared, we're all a part of what I consider to be my legacy. So I will continue to move that needle and work with others so that we can have more great things for our kids and families.
And that is a wrap. But before I go, normally what I like to do is ask my guests what I call rapid fire questions you can answer with one word or a thought. So here we go. Your
Hit me.
favorite borough?
My favorite,
Borough.
Brooklyn, of course.
Oh, you said it with a smile. Most of us saying like, "Why you ask me that?" Like
Right, Brooklyn all
Brooklyn.
day. The greatest.
So, what do you do in your downtime?
My downtime, uh, believe it or not, I never turn off the work because the work is always fun. So my downtime is still connected to the work in some way, whether I'm researching, um, visiting different areas in the community. That's what I do on my downtown time. I never stop.
So, how do you practice self-care?
Self care. Self care is pretty easy for me because, like I said, I don't consider what I do as work. I consider it as fun. So if anybody can organize their life in a way where their job actually becomes fun, then my self health is always taken care of. I'm never stressed out. Uh, I really don't have a lot of issues that other people have or other stressors. And coming from Brownsville, we have great coping skills. So
That's true.
I'm not afraid of anything, right? Because well, how could you be afraid? Uh, so my self help is important, and you're right. It is important for a lot of folks because you carry so many things with you. If you're a parent, entrepreneur, you work a 9 to 5 job, there's a lot of stresses out there. So you do have to take the time out, whatever it is you need to do to work on your personal health, well-being, wellness, you should do it.
Your favorite pizzas or burger?
Pizza, especially in Brownsville, all day.
Smoothies or ice cream?
Ice cream, chocolate.
In 3 years, what will change within Brownsville for you?
In 3 years, we'll have a fully operational, fully coordinated youth program between Brownsville and East New York that activates as many community centers as possible and as many parks as possible.
And final question, and you hit on it earlier. I say he must have been looking at my notes. Um, what will be the legacy that you leave for your family?
The legacy, it's the four things that I mentioned. It's this beautiful Betsy Head Park, which will have an impact for the next 30 years. It's the technology in the schools. It's the youth development programming with Boys and Girls Clubs and others, and then the community sports piece. Um, we have a great team of older leaders, older than myself, and then my age, and then we have some babies behind us, and we're going to make sure that that lasts for the next 30 years as well.
And that will be it. Where can we connect with you?
You can connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at my name, Duane Kinnon. And that's a great way to follow us, a great way to connect with me. And we're open. Any questions, any issues in the community, we're always available to help.
And there you have it. We're talking about community connections and small business. Thank you, Duane, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join the Brownsville Minute. And we look forward to having you join us again. I'm going to say so long temporarily. So we're going to wrap up the show. So
Thank you
long.
very much. Take care.
It is so awesome when I say that we have some amazing and dope individuals from Brownsville, and you thought I was joking. The dopeness doesn't stop there. But I am excited to, just have you see, that everyone who comes from Brownsville, it's not what we see on the news, that we have some really amazing individuals that come from Brownsville. And so, since we're talking about small businesses, I want to just make sure that I shared a number of the resources that are available. On a couple of episodes back, we had the senior director of business recovery, Deshaun Mars, was gracious enough to have come on to the Brownsville Minute, and you can check out the resources there at the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. Make sure that you tell Deshaun and his team that you found this out on the Brownsville Minute. BrooklynChamberofCommerce.com. Please check out that information there. There is opportunity for, again, connected with small business recovery if you are in need of resources. I always say there are tons and tons of free resources that you can take advantage of. This is just one of many. The New York City Small Business Resource Network has one-on-one services for small businesses. You can sign up at the link, that's the New York City Small Business Resources Network.org. Also, let them know that you saw this on the Brownsville Minute. And so you can check them out there. But I also want to just continue to mention, we're still in the midst of the pandemic, right? Recovery is going to happen, but there is help. We have grants between $5,000 and $10,000 that are now available at the New York State Empire State Development. The COVID-19 pandemic small business recovery grant is what it's called. You can check out the New York NY smallbusinessrecovery.com, and there are specific qualifications that you do need in order to be able to apply for the grant. So please make sure that you read all of the details that are connected with applying for this grant. But it is out there, and this is not the only one that exists. And so finally, everyone knows that a part of my business model, I am a business coach. But if you cannot afford my services, you can book me through SCORE. I am a SCORE certified SCORE mentor. You can find me at www.score.org under mentors. And my name is Anita Pierce, and I'll be happy to support you through your next level. And when you book me through SCORE, there is no charge. And I always say, take advantage of these resources that are out there if you are a small business. So, on that note, I want to say thank you for joining the Brownsville Minute. It was really excited having you support this episode. I look forward to you supporting, joining us for the next episode. Please be sure to like, share, and follow the Brownsville Minute. We are on Facebook, Instagram. And if you want to check out more about what we do at 11375, please check us out on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and also on our website at www.11375.com. Until next time, thank you so much. Bye bye.